Gonna get to the meat and potatoes now. Here we go. Here we go. I'm going to introduce you guys to Angela. Hello, everybody. I am so excited to introduce you to Angela Tiedemann. She is known as the Extraordinary Witch on TikTok. Angela, if I said your last name wrong, I'm so sorry. Angela was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. However, her dad's job required them to move around frequently during her early years, and she grew up in Joliet, Illinois. Not that far from me, just saying. Just saying. That's why we're soul sisters. Just saying. Okay, I didn't grow up there. Just saying. Okay, squirrel. All right. She attended Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, where she met her now husband, who farms in Southern Illinois. They now reside in O'Fallon, Illinois, which is it's pretty close to St. Louis. Okay. Angela has always had a keen interest in fitness. She was part of her high school's dance team and started going to the gym to learn more about exercise. Fantastic. She completed both a bachelor's and a master's degree in exercise science. Angela worked as a personal trainer throughout college and shortly after. She enjoyed teaching health classes at Southwestern Illinois Community College and eventually transitioned to becoming a health educator, wellness coordinator, and now a health engagement consultant, which sounds freaking amazing. As someone who works on the science side of life too, like working, oh, thank you. I'm so glad I got it right. Working with medical students, and I work with exercise physiologists and stuff. It is fantastic to see all this. Thank you, Shelly. I appreciate that. In her current role, Angela helps clients create and implement wellness programs for their employees, promoting whole person health beyond just exercise by teaching the basics of healthy eating and stress management. Angela started writing around 2021 when she challenged herself to write a children's book after reading numerous children's books to her own two daughters. She discovered that she had a talent for writing fun little poems, which led to the creation of The Extraordinary Witch. This book is a poem about her own self-discovery, but it also includes mindful magic activities to help others discover the power of writing. As you guys know, hold on, you guys know every single thing I say, please journal, please journal, please journal, please journal. She's right there with that, okay? Angela continues to write Halloween-themed children's books because it's an enjoyable escape for her, and she just is good at it. I mean, why wouldn't you? Hello, TLC Creations. Angela is the creative force behind The Extraordinary Witch. She is a wellness expert who stumbled upon the magic of poetry while writing Halloween poems for her children. This activity became a much-needed escape from reality, and Angela enjoyed the mental challenge of crafting poetic stories. As she improved her own mental health, Angela used her newfound coping skills to create The Extraordinary Witch and help herself work through her frustrations. Angela is passionate about promoting healthy living and wants to share the magic of poetry with you so that you can also find an escape. All right, Angela, let me invite you on here. So we'll help her get through this. Hey, Angela. All right, you got to turn your camera on. It should be, if you tap your screen, the side of your screen, it should come up.
Yes. Oh, how do we do this? Here we go. Maybe.
There you are. Hey, you did it. Happy day.
Yay. This is my first time
Hello.
going live with someone. Thank you for walking me through that.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. First of all, oh my God, I'm so flattered that it's your first time going live with someone on TikTok, and it is me. Holy cow, I'm gonna celebrate, okay? Secondly, thank you so much for doing this. I am super excited, not just to have you here because you give poetry to the world and you're helping cultivate moving your body and getting in touch with your, like all the stuff, all the stuffs, all the good things. And I'm super excited, but I just really love your content. I've been a fan and I really love the journal. I'm really disappointed with myself that I left it at work. There it is. Perfect. Perfect. We'll get all of that in there because I'm super excited to have you on. So welcome in. I'm so excited to get started. Everybody, if you have questions, please hang on to them till the end. I want to make sure all the questions get answered. If you put it in there now, I'm not going to see it. So just hang on to it, okay? She is adorable, Penguin. You got some fans in the house.
Thank you.
All right, so I have 5 questions prepared, and then we'll just kind of go from there if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Look at it. It looks warmer where you are. It is not that warm in Woodstock.
Yes, and being from Northern Illinois, in Southern Illinois, where I now live, it's usually about 10 degrees warmer. So I call it the Florida part of Illinois. So it's crazy. We're in the same state, but I'm a lot warmer than you.
That is so crazy. It drives me crazy. This weather is not my friend. I'm not a fan. Not a fan of winter. But I digress in squirrel moment. Sorry. Okay. So my first question for you is: it's fascinating to hear about your journey from being a wellness expert to discovering the magic of poetry. Can you tell us more about how this transformation happened? Like, what was the pivotal moment or experience that led you to explore poetry as a means of self-discovery and coping?
I love this question because it really is kind of an interesting story. And I do want to preface, I'm battling a bit of a cough and a cold. So if I'm taking sips and pauses, I apologize for that ahead of time. But to answer your question, as being a wellness expert, my primary focus was really in exercise science. That's what I went to school for. That's what I love. You can solve so much with exercise. We, of course, need to incorporate all of the things, but we can really do a lot with exercise. And so I've known that all of my life. I started really getting into exercise in high school, and I am now in my late 30s. So I've been exercising as a means of coping for all of this time. And it really got to a point in my life within the last few years where exercise actually wasn't enough anymore. I needed to do something above and beyond with all of the stressors that we've all been facing with the world around us. I now have kids, like things are different. So I had to find new ways to cope and manage. And poetry is not something that I turned to. I turned to a lot of other different ways, but as you mentioned, when I had kids, I started collecting books for a library. I wanted to make sure that my kids grew up to be readers and enjoy reading. And so we have books kind of stashed all over the house. And in the beginning, I would just buy a book. It looked good. The cover's cute. Illustrations are cute. And we have a lot of books that we really love, but we also have some books that aren't that great. And so I thought to myself, I wonder if I could write a children's book. And it had nothing to do with health or stress management. It was just a mom challenge. You know, I enjoyed reading to my kids, and I thought I should try to write a children's book. If I can do it, great. If not, it was worth a shot.
Right. What's the
So
best
the
that can
first,
happen? I love that. What's the best that
yeah,
can happen? I love it.
exactly, exactly. So I wrote a poem called Two Little Witches, and it was actually really good. I read it to my kids, I read it to my husband, and even he was like, that was pretty good. And so I really enjoyed the process of putting that poem together. It was a children's book, so it was fun. It was about witches, something I like, and I have two little girls, so I tied them into it. And I was focused on, I wanted it to rhyme. So I was Googling what rhymes with what and what are witchy words, what are Halloween words. And it was this whole process in putting this together. And that's where I realized shortly after I just escaped all of reality, and that really made me feel wonderful. And I
Absolutely.
really enjoyed writing that poem. So that was the first one I wrote. And then my sister actually is an art educator. I reached out to her to ask her if she would illustrate it for me. And she said yes. And I said, actually, I could write like 13, have like the 13 nights of Halloween. And so we started working on that, and it's a little bit of a longer process for the illustration. So in between that is when I then created The Extraordinary Witch. And this is a poem about me and that whole journey. And I dove into poetry to explain what was going on with my frustration. I was having frustrations with my career at the time and goals and things like that. I wasn't feeling worthy,
Mm.
and I needed to remember that I am extraordinary, the extraordinary witch. And so I put that into this book. And then I went a step further by creating the mindful magic activities that I added to it, because I want you to discover that you are extraordinary too. Even if you feel ordinary, maybe nothing big or huge has happened in your life, but all of the little things you do all day, every day, that adds up and it makes you extraordinary. And so there are activities to help you realize that. and to help you maybe learn to write some poetry. If you're good at it, awesome. If not, it takes your mind off of life for a minute.
I love that. That's like a sneak attack of self-love. You know,
Yeah,
like they don't
it
even know it's
was.
coming. I'm going to sneak it in there and then they figure out something amazing about themselves. I really like that. I love how you were able to use this as a passion to shift your focus away from all the things around you that were kind of out of control and, the whole world. And you were able to focus more on something you had total control of, like hands in the clay type thing, like really creative. I absolutely love that. Reading has always been a huge escape for me. As a kid, we didn't have a TV. My dad did not allow that stuff, and I spent my whole high school career grounded for one reason or another. So I read constantly, and I read really, really fast. And those books were what helped me escape from whatever was happening in my life. And it's been a huge gift. So I'm so excited that you make these for people, because poetry can be very intimidating for people. They feel like they should be able to understand this deeper meaning, but they're starting with like Yeats or something. Like, okay, let's back off a little bit. We're not in master's classes here. Let's just have fun and let it flow. And I just love the feeling of being in that pentameter, like dun 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 dun, dun, it's just, I absolutely love it. That's so exciting. Quick question: who does your illustrations? Do you do them outside of house, or is it someone you know?
So my sister is an artist and she doesn't illustrate books, but I reached out to her, being my sister, and said, I've started writing. Would you be willing to illustrate a book for me? And she has taught art education at all levels. She has a PhD and her doctorate in education. And when I reached out to her at the time, she said, funny you should ask. I actually just published my own children's book. She wrote and illustrated a children's book and was going to surprise us with it. So I kind of burst the surprise by asking her, but she said, absolutely, I would love to illustrate your book. So
Wow.
I just have the one illustrated by her, and I have a few other children's books that I actually just went out and took pictures and applied a fun filter to them. So my girls are in one of my other children's
Oh,
books.
how fun. How fun. I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, so your book that you were just talking about, The Extraordinary Witch, not only tells a story, but also includes mindful magic activities. Can you elaborate on the connection between poetry and mindfulness, and how do these activities help others discover the power of writing and its impact on their well-being? Like how did you figure out what exercises to include? What was your thought process on that?
That's a really good question. And part of it came from my discovery that writing is really a powerful tool for our mental health. And another part of it just came from my years of experience in the wellness industry. So what I created to begin with, because I want specifically everyone to discover how extraordinary they are, the first few activities are simply questions like, why are you extraordinary? Write down all of the things. And I try to give simple examples. I'm extraordinary because I'm a mom, and I can leave it at that. I don't even have to explain why I'm a good mom. I can just say that's why I'm extraordinary. And being a mom doesn't make you extraordinary. If you're not a mom or a dad, that's okay too, or a parent. You can be extraordinary because you went through the day without tripping over your feet. That's an
Right?
accomplishment for me.
Ooh, I tell you.
That always makes me extraordinary. And then from my experience in working with others in trying to overcome struggles and to establish new healthy habits, tracking is really a great way to get them on the right path. And I don't feel like you should have to track everything you do all day, every day for your entire life. I go in cycles. I'll track for a month or so, then I get into the habit again and I don't need to write down everything. And then if I fall off track, I can go back to my book. And that's really how this is designed. So I have a whole section on positive vibes and a mood tracker too. And with my positive vibes, I give just really simple examples of something positive that you can do in a day. So I give examples and then there's room for you to add your own. And it's something simple like listen to music with purpose, acknowledge your accomplishments, think positive thoughts, check the box, and then you just you have monthly trackers, you color in. I like to show everyone how I code my color pencils so that I make it really easy to track. And then I tie in the poetry piece by asking you to create an intentional poem every month. And I help that with some manifestations. First, I ask you to write down what's a personal intention you want to work on this month? What's a social intention? I go in and out. Sometimes I'm not very good at keeping up with family members or myself, even. What can I do for myself or my friends that will make me feel good? A wellness intention of the month, and then a career or education intention. Not all of us have a career. Some of us are, forever learners. So, you write down your intentions, and then I like to use those to then create my poem of the month. And I should have brought my example because I actually wrote mine down, and it's really cool to actually go back then and reflect on what you wrote. The poems don't have to be good, they don't have to rhyme. It has to be something that flows from your heart. And again, you can look back and see, did I meet my goals? Did I exceed my goals? What can I do in the future to make sure that I'm keeping up with those things?
Yeah, and I can see the two. I love the idea of checking the box. That gives us that feeling of satisfaction of I've met this goal that I put on myself. I absolutely love that. And I really like the idea of using your intentions to create a poem because it's just another way of manifesting by, spelling, by speaking those words out into the world, what you intended to happen and having it happen in a natural sort of way. I love that. And, people, I hope people, um, for me, it's about being creative without any expectations and without any judgment on myself because I'm not a poet, but I can sit down and make something that feels good for me and I don't have to share it with anybody. It's for me, and
Yes, it's all
I
yours.
think, yes, I think people get caught up in the feeling of, oh, someone so and so is not going to like it or they're going to think it's stupid, but it's not about anybody but you and what you have to say to yourself. And what a gift to give yourself to be able to go back to that 6 months or a year later and say, oh my gosh, look how much I've grown. Like it's a beautiful gift that you can give yourself just doing these little exercises. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm such a huge fan. I don't know if you can tell I'm a fan. All right. um, so, number three, you've mentioned that writing Halloween themed children's books is an enjoyable escape for you. Can you share how spirituality and the themes of magic and Halloween play a role in your creative process?
Yes, and I have a big admission to release right here in front of this crowd. We're probably a lot of witches within this audience, right? That's kind of what I've been building as my audience. And I am going to make a big admission. When I wrote The Extraordinary Witch, I was in a place where I'm just a person who really loves Halloween and witches and that as a theme. So I put that theme to this poem because I knew that would make me enjoy the process. So then I decided to publish it and I said, now I have to market this. So who is my audience? Witches are my audience. And I had no idea how large the world of witchcraft was when I started to dive into this. So full full transparency, I started looking into witchcraft as a marketing means and I discovered, holy cow, this is real. And I started practicing and learning and joining groups and trying to discover my audience. But in that, I discovered that I am a witch and I'm a real witch. I'm not just hocus pocus in the movies. I like to wear a pointy black hat type of witch. And then I really discovered that I was onto something here. It's all happened intentionally because poetry is the same thing as writing spells.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got really excited about that. And I'm like, not only is this going to be helpful for people from a wellness standpoint, but now I can put my wealth of wellness knowledge into the world of witchcraft and hopefully help them discover that when you're crafting your spells and writing poems to make those spells, you're really doing amazing work for your spiritual health. And that's just one aspect of our overall health and well-being. It's very important to have a spiritual path. I grew up going to church with my family, and that is just what my family did. And I started to stray away from the church in recent years, and then I discovered witchcraft and really started looking into paganism more too. And I'm just so happy with what I found, and I'm doing what works for me, and that is making me more healthy as a whole person, and it's really truly wonderful.
What a really great example of letting your alignment lead you, right? You didn't even,
Yes,
I mean, you put the name on
I
there
had
and
no
it
idea.
didn't even, wasn't a thought. And then look at those little tiny pebbles leading you along to help you find who you actually are, who more of who you are. You know, that's a great example of alignment and how once you click into that alignment, if you let it lead you, it will lead you. I mean, it's not
Yes.
going to be like this, but it's, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Esther Hicks, but she says a lot. You're getting ready to be ready to be ready to receive. You know, you're getting ready to be ready. Like you're putting your seatbelt on, you're putting your shoes on, you're ready to go. You know, one step at a time. I absolutely love that. What a great thing. Um, your work has evolved from being a personal trainer to a wellness coordinator and now a health engagement consultant. How has your spiritual journey influenced your approach to promoting whole person health and wellness in your current role? And are there specific spiritual practices or beliefs that have guided you in this work?
I love this question so much. Being in the wellness industry, it can be a challenge because there are a lot of influencers out there. There's a lot of myths that we have to bust, and there's just a lot of misinformation. So, when it comes to spirituality, I will say that from a health and wellness perspective, I have always encouraged everyone to have some sort of spiritual path. And I usually just leave it at that because I don't care what your path is as long as you have one. If you have a belief in a higher power, that is something for you to take in and for you to practice in a way that makes you feel good and whole and healthy. So that's really kind of my approach. I don't talk specifically about any kind of path with anyone. And even now, you know, in rediscovering myself and my own journeys, I really don't bring it up unless I know the person just really wants to have an open discussion with me. And we can go back and forth and we can say, oh, that's really cool that you believe that. Here's what I believe. And hopefully they return the same
Right.
sentiment. And we can just talk about it in that aspect. So, from a career in the health and wellness standpoint, that's kind of where my stance is on that. Just make sure you have a path and that it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, like me, Christianity didn't work for me. And I discovered that and I found a path that does. So
Yeah.
it's a
So
journey.
let me ask you, as someone in the fitness industry, can you talk a little bit about how the connection between moving your body and physical fitness and things like depression, anxiety, OCD, all those things, and how it can affect that sort of process in your physical body?
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like the movement is kind of the obvious piece. When we're exercising regularly, we're releasing those endorphins, we're physically feeling better. So then we mentally feel better because our body feels better. We're comfortable with our activity level. So the physical piece, it really, it all goes hand in hand. I have I've worked with a lot of people over my years who will have the mindset of, I have to start eating healthy first and then I can exercise, or vice versa. Same with stress management. I'll deal with that when I get this under control. But it all works hand in hand. And the nice thing is if you start exercising first, only exercising, you find that, well, I'm doing really good with this, so I'm going to have that apple today, you know, since I'm exercising so well. So it does start to carry over, but if we can put all of them together at the same time instead of focusing on one or the other, it's really going to have the most positive impact. And that's
Yeah,
where journaling and tracking really comes into play.
yeah,
You don't have to journal about witchcraft or poems. You can just simply track what you do for exercise or healthy eating, and that helps you stay accountable and helps you recognize your accomplishments, which is really nice. Some people, that's a huge part of this, the extraordinary witch, and recognizing that you're extraordinary. Once you start writing down all of the things that you've done in your life, it starts to click like, oh, I am pretty extraordinary.
right. All those little things that we don't give ourselves credit for. You know, we tend to, I find with my clients that a lot of most people, everybody, let's just go everybody, tends to give credit away for the work that they
Yeah.
do. You know, they downgrade the comment, or I call it swatting a comment. Like, especially women are notorious for this, but like you can say to
Mhm.
someone, "Oh my gosh, I love your outfit," and they'll want to say, "Well, I got it on sale at Target," which immediately just knock it down instead of just saying thank you. You know,
Yeah.
I love the idea of giving someone the space to exercise looking at themselves in a little bit different light. You know, if this was your friend that you were writing about, what would you say? You know, because we talk nicer to everybody but ourselves. You
Yeah.
know, we speak so
I like
nicely to
that.
everyone. I'm a huge proponent of journaling. I talk about it all the time. For me, I was just looking to see if I had it in here. It's been extraordinary because you know, everybody has those days where you feel like you're not connected, things are just crap, and you just feel terrible. It's very helpful for me to go back to my journal and go back 6 months and see where I
Yeah.
was 6 months ago versus where I am now. Even on the day that I'm having a bad day, I'm so much farther for, you know, feel so much farther forward than I was 6 months ago. That by itself, that simple act of reading my own words will help pull me out of whatever it is I'm sort of stuck in, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like exercise does the same thing. You start going down a drain with your thoughts. If you can go for a walk and intentionally focus and like intentionally say thank you to all the nature in your path. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite things to do. Like just go for a walk and
I love that.
thank you for this beautiful pile of dog poo. It's great. Thank you for this bee's nest. It's wonderful. Thank you. You know, but you're focusing on something outside of yourself that can give you a little bit of joy, and also moving your body, which helps your blood move and circulate. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all part of I I have known so many people personally, including myself, that exercise was life changing and that it helped you get out of that depressive state of feeling like I just can't do anything. But if I can give myself the goal of I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk, that's an achievable goal that I can do and then feel good about for the rest of the day. And that's invaluable to me, just having something like that.
Yes, and I like that call out of having something achievable because it can be a fine line when it comes to people in exercise. If they've never exercised before, if they set too lofty of a goal and can't accomplish it, that's depressing as well. And it's just a circle, a vicious cycle. So you
Absolutely.
have to figure out the balance for you. How long can you exercise that you're willing to exercise? 5 minutes is fine. I will take 5 minutes over 0 minutes. And what do you want to do? If you don't like running, don't run because you're
Right.
not going to enjoy it and you're not going to go back to it.
Right.
So, taking those small, achievable goals and small goals that you write down, and maybe you do have a long term goal that you want to work on, but what are you going to do to get there?
Yeah.
And
What are you going to
in a
do
way
right
that makes you
now?
feel good.
Yeah. Like
Hmm.
right now where you have control, what do you want to do? And then
Yeah.
let it go. You know, I work with people a lot in my practice about realizing when the anxiety or the depression comes up, it can be overwhelming because you're focused so far in the future or so far in the past, you can't even see where you are. So reminding people you only need to get through 5 minutes at a time. 5 minutes. You can set an achievable, manageable goal that's 5 minutes long and just in the next 5 minutes do it again. The next 5 minutes do it again. And I know for a lot of people, myself included, exercise is kind of like that. Okay, I can't say I'm going to join a gym and go every day for a month because that overwhelms me. But I
Hmm.
can say I'm going to take the opportunity to go for a walk every day the weather's nice. That is manageable, achievable, and will help me feel good.
Yeah.
People are so hard on themselves about these goals that they set. And then when they can't reach the goal, it's a total self defeating cycle, right? You set a
Yeah.
goal, you can't reach the goal. So you're hard on yourself. So you set a harder goal. So then you can't reach that goal. So you're hard on yourself. So you set a harder goal. You know,
Hmm.
it's just a very
Yeah.
self-feeding cycle. At some point, you have to make the conscious choice to say, you know what, I'm going to reevaluate these goals that I'm
Yeah.
setting on myself. Because
Yeah.
it's really, who are you trying to impress? It's just you, right?
Right, right. And it's important to call out too. A lot of people that I've worked with feel like, well, 5 minutes isn't going to do anything, so why bother? No, 5 minutes gets the ball rolling. It gets you started. And again, I always say 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes. And so a lot of people find that usually a walk is a good starter exercise. So they go for a 5 minute walk and they get home and realize, well, actually, it ended up being 10 minutes. I was really enjoying myself out there. And then they do that so many times, they finally discover, hey, exercise isn't so bad. It's actually pretty nice.
Right?
And
Once you
that's what
start,
really helps you form the habit.
yes,
So
and
start small.
yes, and I love what you said about do what you actually like to do. You know,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
hate running, the worst thing you could do is say, I have to run because,
Yeah.
I
There's no
tell
reason.
people,
You don't have to run.
right, I tell people all the time, if I'm running, you should also run because we're gonna die. So hurry up. Like if you see me running, something's happening.
I love it.
Um,
I love to run, so I don't know why I always use that as an example, probably because I know most people don't.
Yeah, I tried. I was for years, I was in this mindset of I need to like running. It's the best exercise. I gotta like it. I don't know why. I've had two knee surgeries. It's the worst exercise I could possibly do for myself, but I was stuck in the head, and
Yeah,
I took a class on learning how to properly run a marathon where you started and you worked your way up, and I got up to like, I don't know, the point where you were running longer than you were walking, and I'm like, I'm out.
I'm good.
I tried
I love
everything
it.
before I finally realized what I actually really love is rowing. I absolutely love rowing. That's my favorite
That's
movement,
awesome.
and it's the whole body movement. And like
Everything.
I get on the rower and I put in my headphones and close my eyes, and I'm on a lake somewhere, like instantly. And it's
Amazing.
so relaxing for me. Okay, so can you tell us about any personal spiritual or mindfulness practices that have been particularly transformative for you in your life, and how do you integrate those practices into your daily routine?
Yes. So writing poetry was my biggest one. That was my kind of step into witchcraft to begin with. I have several journals and all of the things kind of all over, and I just write things down. I really started diving more into that. And again, I'm a pretty new witch. I would say only like 2 years into this journey. Something that I really, really leaned into hard when I first started learning is the power of crystals. I'm a firm believer that they hold strong powers and energies. And something that I share on my TikTok page, you called out, I haven't been posting a lot lately. You're right. Work has been very busy. I've been a little bit sick, so I have been slacking, and I that stresses me out, but I have to pause and say, it's not the end of the world. This is not something to be stressed about. So I do hope to pick back up with that. But when I do post, I like to post the small witchy things that I do to try and remind witches that you don't have to do something huge every single day to call yourself a witch. I thought I did. I thought I had to read my tarot cards and journal and do everything every single day. I thought that in the beginning because I started out that way because it felt so good and I really, really needed it. And then as I started to feel better, I didn't need it as much. So I wasn't doing it as much. And I didn't put two and two together that I'm not doing it because I don't need it right now. But I would become frustrated with myself that I'm not practicing, so I'm not a witch right now. And that's not the truth. So I try to really bring the simplicity into my posts and talk about how you don't have to do something every day. But in fact, when you think about your day at the end of the day, is there anything that you did do unintentionally that is a form of witchcraft? Did you sprinkle some cinnamon in your coffee? There's your witchcraft right there. It doesn't have to be something intentional every single day. And so I've really focused on that. And I also talk a lot about the fact that I have no idea the name of all of the crystals or their properties. I have to look it up every time. I
Me too.
don't have a brain that will ever, ever, ever memorize those. I wanted to. I tried. It didn't work. So I have accepted it. So what I do is I pick out my crystal jewelry or a rock or a crystal and I pick it intentionally and then I look up what it is and I realize, hey, I did need this today. And that's how it works every time. So I try to remind witches that and same with tarot, I'll never memorize the cards. I will always use my guidebook. And it still works the exact same way. I'm infusing the cards with my intentions and my question, and I still draw the cards the way that they need to be drawn for me, whether I know what the card means when I pull it or not.
Right.
So I go to my guidebook and I take my notes, and those are kind of the biggest things for me.
That's a really good point about not forcing it, right? There are days um, where, like, I read cards on TikTok. It used to be 3 days a week, and there were days, man, I just was not feeling it. And I would try to force myself to do it. And I found that when I did try to force it, the connection wasn't as strong, the reading wasn't as accurate, I wasn't as confident. So I had to be okay with, if I wake up and feel like it's not working, I have to be okay with not forcing it to go to do.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, be okay with the idea that that doesn't mean I'm not spiritual, I'm not a tarot reader or whatever. It's just, I heard someone say in a video, Bashar said this in one of his videos. Someone was asking about that. Do you ever lose ground? Do you ever go backwards? And he said, everybody has troughs and valleys, but what you fail to realize is you're not doing this, you're doing this. So you go up and you have a little dip, but you're still
I love
always
that.
moving in this direction. It's never all the way down and back up. You're never going to lose that. Everybody has days where they feel like they're just not connected for whatever reason. And part of the key is not being mad at yourself about it, not beating yourself up about it, not forcing the practices. Just have a hermit day.
Yeah, I
For
love
me in
that.
particular, when I'm receiving, I'm sure you know this. Everybody in here knows this. I'm like hella sensitive to energy, like hardcore sensitive. I can feel it everywhere. And if I receive a big chunk of something, my body will go into hermit mode, and it's the only way that I can process everything. And for a long time, I would fight against it. Nope, nope, nope. I'm gonna get up and do blah blah blah, and then I'd feel worse for longer. If I listen to my body and just say, okay, today's gonna be an ice cream and ancient aliens day, then I'm fine.
Mhm.
That's a great point. So I thought of a question while we've been talking. Is there one general or one misconception about witchcraft or practicing witchcraft that you would love to just ixnay right now, like that's not how it
Ooh.
is or whatever? Because I know there's a lot of misconceptions around it. I have a couple friends who are witches, practicing witches, and they've tried to explain to me the huge spectrum that it lists. In my mind, I started going cross-eyed. I was like, that's worse than crystals. I'm just like you. My business partner, my friend Heather, in the store, it's hilarious. Someone will come in and they'll go, what crystal is this? And I'll like, let me get Heather. And I gotta get Heather because I can't. She somehow
I
remembers
love it.
all of them and what they do. I can't remember any of them. I can tell you if it affects me or not, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So I completely get it. But I'm curious if you have one misconception in particular that gets under your skin or that people always are bringing up that you feel like could be cleared up.
I don't know if it's necessarily something that gets under my skin, but more so discover the things that work for you and make it your own and do it that way. It's good to learn from others and discover, what things mean and magical properties of different herbs and crystals and all of the things, but you get to make it your own. And that's something that I really like about witchcraft as opposed to religion. Religion feels like you have to do things this way by the book, literally, and this is how it works. Whereas for me and witchcraft, I can practice whenever I want, wherever I want, and however I want, and just do what works for me. You probably, if you're in any kind of witch group or your algorithm on TikTok is in the witch realm, which mine is, you hear a lot about gatekeeping. Some witches will say you can't do this without doing that, or these are certain things that you can't do, and I don't believe in that. If it's something that works for you, now I do believe in closed practices and respecting certain things, but just my biggest thing is you can do whatever you want as long as it's safe and it works for you and it makes you happy. I call myself eclectic. I take what works for me, and that's how I practice witchcraft. And I think that's just a really easy way to do it.
Yeah, I think spirituality is very much the same way. I tell that to a lot of people. Don't let your expectations ruin your experience, right? Like your experience is completely and 100% unique to you, right? The idea is that we all create one. If we were all the same, there would only need to be one. So we are all individual and unique. So when we do come together, we create one, right? That's the idea. So my experience, I tell people a lot, like my awakening happened, and the first teacher that I found that spoke to me was Ram Dass, right? Like he was dead already. I don't even know how I found this guy, but when I found him, he spoke to me so profoundly. I read every book he wrote in a month because I couldn't get enough. Like I couldn't read anything else. It just took over. But there came a point where I had this feeling of I'm done with him. And it wasn't he was wrong, it wasn't he was bad. It was just I've gotten what I needed from him, and now it's time to move on to someone else. And
I
I
love
didn't
that.
take all of his teachings, but I took what worked for me and what spoke to me. And I incorporated that with teachings from Esther Hicks and Christina Lopes and Eckhart Tolle and all these people, and have created my own little ball of what works for me. And I
Yeah.
think a big problem for a lot of people, especially just going through their awakening, is they expect their experience needs to be like yours or like mine. Well, if you're a witch, then I have to be just like you because that's what I am too. But it's
Yeah.
not about that at all. It's very much like a bag of Skittles. Everybody's a little bit different, but we taste really good when we come together. So, just take what
That's
works for
true.
you know um people ask me a lot, like, do I have an, because I don't subscribe to any religion either, and people ask me a lot, do you have an issue with Christianity? And I would look at them and I'd say, depends on the question you're asking. I do not have an issue with Jesus's teachings or the stories that they tell in the Bible or any of that. I have an issue with someone telling me I can't speak to God because I'm not good enough and I have to have an intermarriage, or someone telling me the prayers I have to pray. I don't like the structure. I love the teachings. I think Jesus taught nothing but love, and how wonderful to have that. But I don't need someone else to interpret that for me,
Yes.
and I think that's where my rub is on that. So I think that's another big misconception, is just because you practice witchcraft doesn't mean that you aren't gaining something from all the teachings that are there. It's just organization of the Christian church or the Jewish church or whoever is just not, that's not what I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
Um, so you have one, two, three, four, five, six books out now,
I
or do you have
do.
seven? Because
I
did you just
well, I
finish
have
one?
I have several Halloween and witchy books, and then I also have just plain generic wellness journals. I have two wellness journals out there. In fact, Well Witches, this is the journal that you reviewed for me so kindly, and that's how we met here on TikTok. But this it was actually converted from a wellness journal I created called Activate Your Wellness. And that's just, a plain wellness journal. If you happen to see, I have an author page on Amazon. If you happen to see Activate Your Wellness and Well Witches, they're basically the same book. I used the same goals every month, but I put a witchy twist on this. I added some intentions and manifestations and things like that, but the goals themselves are the same. So don't buy Activate if you buy Well Witches. They're pretty much the same. I'll call that out. But yes, I have all of them here. I've got Well Witches, The Extraordinary Witch, Magic Magic Boom is my children's book. This is the phrase that my two girls say when they're playing witch. They'll grab a stick and, cast a spell and they say Magic Magic Boom.
Oh
And
my
when I
God.
heard that, I thought it was the cutest thing ever. So I wrote a little story around it. This is them. I also wrote Pumpkins, Pumpkins. My husband farms, and we have a friend who grows a pumpkin patch on his farm, and he used to do it for research. He bred different varieties and things like that, and so he's retired now and grows pumpkins for fun. And it's this massive patch, and I'm in heaven because I get all the pumpkins I could ask for, and it was so exciting. Last year was the first year he did it like for fun. And so I was so excited. I wrote a book about it. And
Oh,
all of the pictures are the pumpkins from his patch. And
that is
then I
awesome.
also have the spookiest ghost and the spectacular skeleton. These are just two. fun little children's books. And then my most recent is 13 Spooky Tales, a book of children's
That's
poems.
the one I was looking for because I that's
Yeah.
most recent. I remember seeing that one. Okay, yeah, that's very
Yeah.
exciting. Okay, well, this has been fantastic. I would love to open it up to questions and see if anyone has a question for Angela before we let her go because we're going to be respectful of her time. What questions do you guys have for Angela? And by the way, if you're in the room, do me a favor and just tap the screen. We're almost to our goal, guys. Come on, you can do it. Tap the screen and get this out to as many
Yeah.
people
Well,
as possible. So
this is
what
awesome.
what questions do you guys have for Angela before we let her go? Or did we do such a great job with the interview that there are no questions? Hmm. That's what
I
I'm
love
thinking,
it.
right? Like, I feel like we covered so much that's
I
awesome.
know. This is wonderful. And it was such a good conversation with you, Erin. I know we met through TikTok, and this is the first time for us interacting in person. And I feel like we click very
Yeah,
easily. It must be an Illinois thing.
maybe. I think maybe it's just that I feel your heart and I know you're true, you know? I can just feel it coming off you. Ooh, look at that. I feel your heart. I know it's true. I can just feel it coming
Yes,
off of you.
I love it. Oh, we have
Um,
another Illinoisan.
yes. Penguin wants to know, how do you market your books? This is
Um,
relevant.
to
He's just publishing his first book. This is why he's
Oh,
asking.
amazing. It's hard. I work full time. I have two kids, so it's a passion project. What I have done mostly is I created my TikTok, The Extraordinary Witch, so please follow me there.
Yep.
And I try to make my TikToks not salesy. I don't want to be that person. I go on and I am myself. I share what I do in witchcraft, but of course I do share my process and the fun things about all of these books. So build an audience there. Facebook is huge. I know I'm probably not supposed to say all the other medias, but social media is a big one. And for this book, 13 Spooky Tales, because my sister and I worked together on this, this is our project together. So I want it to be successful not only for me, but for her too. And this one is really special for me. Two Little Witches, that first poem I ever wrote 3 years ago, is the first poem in this book. So that one hasn't been released until just a couple of weeks ago. And so I have reached out to news outlets. I have reached out to my local community to really highlight, hey, I'm a local children's book author. What do you want to do to spread the word? And we're also having a book release event party at the end of this month in O'Fallon, Illinois. If anyone wants to take a road trip, come on down. It's warm down here.
Well, Jimmy's not that
O'Fallon.
far from you. I think he's in the St. Louis area, so who knows?
Oh, there you go. That's perfect. So we're having a free party and it's geared towards families and kids, and we're going to have fun activities and reading. And again, we're really hitting that local author, like come out and meet us. My sister actually lives in Indiana, but she got her doctorate in St. Louis at UMSL University, St. Louis. So she has a little bit of a tie to this area too. So
Oh, fantastic.
contact local news, reach out to schools, find different ways to get out there.
Oh, he says he's in Missouri. That's my mistake. Um, all right. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's a full-time job to market yourself. I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
it is
And you
not
don't
easy.
get paid for it until
No,
you start
no.
selling, at least.
As someone who has a business, marketing is a hot mess. It's expensive.
Yes.
Social media for us at the Wellness Center has genuinely been the biggest way to market ourselves because it's free.
Yes.
Otherwise, everything costs money. Absolutely every single thing you want to do costs money, it feels like. So if you can start, especially if you already have a social media presence and just
Hmm.
sort of fold it into that. But like she says, very much I agree with the idea of don't get overselly on your site. Don't make people feel like I'm not going to watch these videos because it's just selling stuff, you know?
Hmm.
So
Build a connection so
yeah.
people know who you are, not just what your product is.
Yes, that commonality, that feeling
Yeah.
of something in common is what draws people in,
Hmm.
There's people I follow on TikTok. I only follow them because they crack me up. Like I
Yeah.
can't even I mean, especially the ones with the babies. doing all the dances and stuff. Like I can't even, but just something that gives a hook that gives someone a feeling of I have something in common with this person, and then you bring them in and then you talk about it, and that seems to be the best way that we have found to market the store. So
Yeah.
best of luck to everybody in there. Have you ever done any like readings, like a Barnes and I don't even know if they still have Barnes and Nobles, but like at a Barnes and Noble where you go and you like read? Do they even still have places
I
to do
I
it?
think they do. I think we have one by us. I haven't, again, because I have that full-time job and two kids, it's really hard to find what works for us. But we are doing a reading at our book event. I did take copies of my books to the local library. I've actually had followers on TikTok here reach out. I had one, I shouldn't say plural, but she said she works at a library and would love to buy my books for her library. I said, you're not buying them. I will donate them. I can't do that for everyone because I have to still buy the books. But when I have an opportunity to donate to a library or a school or something like that, I can do that. I did go to my kids' daycare and did a reading there because that was something simple. I go
Oh,
there
how
every day
fun.
anyways. So yeah, just
How fun
different
for your
things
kids to be like, that's
to
my
do that.
mommy, Oh my
Yes,
gosh, so
I was in
exciting.
full witch costume. They loved it. I tell
That's
you what, if your audience is children, they will make you feel good about, like, I could have read the most terrible story and they would have loved it. And if you can get that as your focus audience, then you're in luck.
absolutely. I think they like the attention 100%. I love it. Ginny says, I lost it. I never considered myself a witch. I've been using crystals for their healing properties for 7 years. She makes crystal jewelry for herself and sells them, which is awesome.
I love that.
And Jimmy says he just booked his first reading and signing event today. So that's exciting. That's very exciting.
That's awesome. I love that. Very exciting. Follow me and I want to know about your book, please. Send me a
Yes,
message.
you guys.
And I want to see the crystal jewelry that you sell too. And just because you like crystals, if you're not a witch, that's okay. It doesn't, you can be whatever you want to be.
Right. It's not mutually exclusive. You don't have to pick one. You can mix and
Hmm.
match, like make your
Yeah.
own flavor of ice cream. It's good. Um, what was I going to say? I don't remember what I was going to say. What other questions do we have for Angela? I'm going to keep her here for 4 more minutes and then I'm going to let her go. Yes, Brian says, which is a human label. I think I agree with that. I think it's just being natural more than anything. The witches I know, it's a lot about learning to work with plant medicine, learning to work with moon cycles, learning to work with, manifestation techniques and stuff like that. Jimmy, you're good. You're fine.
I love everyone who has a spiritual path that works for them.
Absolutely. 100%. I don't care how
I,
you happy. I just hope that you happy. That's all I care
and
about.
I hope it's okay that I'm a weird witch.
Right? Right. What other questions can we answer for you guys before we let Angela go here? She's only got 3 minutes left with you. By the way, if you have not already followed Angela, please do that. Pick her up. On your website, everybody can buy your books, right?
Yes.
And do you have a
Yes.
TikTok shop? Have you done that?
No, all of my books are available on that big website where you order things from. I said it once before, I'm trying to avoid certain keywords.
Right.
Because I have that full-time job, I don't ship anything out myself. I leave it to that company. So you order directly from there. They print, ship, everything. They take care of it, which is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yes, I love that. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, then I'm just going to say thank you very much for being here with us and for sharing your experience and everything with us. Really, my goal with doing these interviews is so that people realize that it's so huge, the amount of variety that's out there, and you're not alone in anything. For me, my awakening was like a hard 2x4 to the forehead. I was like one of those people. I mean, I was a nurse for over 20 some odd years. I work at a medical school. I used to be, show me the evidence or I'm not going to
Yes,
believe you. And I had to go from that to just being like, I feel it. You
that's
know,
amazing. I
that's
love
so
that.
hard.
Yes.
So I wanted people to understand that there's a huge range of things that people go through when they have their awakening and when they're connecting to reality around them. And I appreciate you very, very much for sharing your story with us. It is so tangible. Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you
Everyone,
for having
please
me.
check out her website. It is theextraordinarywitch.com, correct? Yep. It
Yes.
will also, I'm sure it's linked in her bio, so you can also do that. Congratulations, Kathy. Reiki was amazing for me. Even though I did not get my master's certificate, the reason I started Reiki is because my energy was out of control. It was a hot mess. I mean, and Reiki teaches you how to control your own energy. So once I got that under control, it just evolved from there. So don't look at Reiki as the end, look at it as the beginning. It will evolve and become your own. And that's the best part about it, as far as I'm concerned. It's a wonderful practice. All right, Angela, thank you so much. You have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
afternoon, and I can't wait to see your next book.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. It was really fun.
Bye.